In a dramatic turn of events, a potential trade war between the United States and Colombia has been averted following an agreement that allows U.S. military flights carrying deported migrants to land in Colombia. This diplomatic resolution comes in the wake of escalating tensions sparked by President Gustavo Petro's initial refusal to accept the flights which he deemed degrading to Colombian citizens. The conflict intensified over the weekend when Petro barred 2 U.S. military planes from landing, prompting swift retaliation from the Trump administration. In a move that echoed his hardline stance on immigration, President Trump threatened to impose punitive tariffs of 25% on all Colombian goods, a threat that could have significant ramifications for both nations. These measures are just the beginning, Trump warned, as he also announced visa revocations for Colombian government officials. The discord between the two leaders was further fueled by a series of social media exchanges, with Petro asserting that the U.S. could not treat Colombian migrants as criminals. He emphasized the need for humane treatment of deportees, even offering to send Colombia's presidential plane to repatriate its citizens instead of relying on military aircraft. "I will never allow Colombians to be returned handcuffed on flights," he declared, referencing past incidents where deportees were restrained during transit. Despite the initial exchange of threats, the situation took a turn when the Colombian government agreed to accept the deportation flights without limitation or delay. This concession was characterized by the White House as a significant victory for Trump's administration, with Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt proclaiming, "Today's events make clear to the world that America is respected again." She noted that the tariffs and sanctions would remain in reserve, contingent upon Colombia's compliance with the agreement. Foreign Minister Luis Gilberto Murillo later announced that the two nations had reached an understanding, effectively diffusing the immediate crisis. However, he confirmed that visa restrictions on Colombian officials would remain until the first deportation flight arrived in Colombia. This development highlights the delicate balance of power and the ongoing challenges in U.S. Colombia relations, which have historically been characterized by mutual cooperation in various domains, including drug trafficking and security. The economic stakes are high, as trade between the U.S. and Colombia amounted to approximately $53.5 billion in 2022, with Colombian exports including oil, coffee, and cut flowers. The imposition of tariffs could have drastically impacted both Colombian producers and American consumers. As pointed out by Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who emphasized that we pay the tariffs, not Colombia. She warned that Trump's tariffs might lead to increased costs for everyday items, including coffee, a staple for many Americans. As the situation unfolds, it remains clear that both nations will need to navigate the complexities of this diplomatic relationship carefully. With Trump's administration signaling a commitment to aggressive immigration policies, other countries may find themselves under similar pressure to accept their citizens deported from the U.S. The ultimate impact of this incident on U.S.-Colombia relations will depend on ongoing diplomatic engagements, with both sides keen to avoid further escalation. The coming weeks will likely reveal whether this agreement heralds a new chapter in bilateral relations or if underlying tensions will resurface. In a dramatic turn of events, diplomatic tensions between the United States and Colombia have escalated, culminating in a fierce exchange over the deportation of migrants. The confrontation reached a boiling point on January 27, 2025, when the White House announced that Colombia had agreed to accept deported Colombians after a series of threats from President Donald Trump, including steep tariffs on Colombian imports. The roots of this diplomatic spat can be traced to Colombia's recent refusal to accept U.S. military flights carrying deported migrants. Colombian President Gustavo Petro had expressed deep concerns over the treatment of deportees, stating, "A migrant is not a criminal and must be treated with the dignity that a human being deserves." In a symbolic act of defiance, Petro ordered the rejection of 2 U.S. military aircraft carrying migrants, prompting an immediate and forceful response from the Trump administration. In a bid to apply pressure, Trump announced a blanket 25% tariff on all goods entering the U.S. from Colombia, with the threat of increasing this to 50% within a week. These measures are just the beginning, he declared on his social media platform Truth Social, emphasizing that Colombia's actions jeopardized U.S. national security. This aggressive stance was supported by White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, who reiterated that Colombia had agreed to accept all deportees without delay or limitation. Colombian Foreign Minister Luis Gilberto Murillo later confirmed that the episode had been resolved, stating, "We have overcome the impasse with the United States government." He assured that Colombia would continue to receive its citizens returning from the U.S. under conditions that respect their rights. The Colombian government even offered its presidential aircraft to facilitate the deportation process. The implications of this unfolding situation are significant for both nations. Historically, Colombia has been a key ally to the U.S. in anti-narcotics efforts and immigration policy. However, under Petro's leadership, the relationship has grown strained, with the leftist president seeking a more independent approach to foreign policy. Colombia has accepted nearly 475 deportation flights from the U.S. between 2020 and 2024, a figure that could be impacted by the recent tariff threats and retaliatory measures. The economic ramifications of Trump's proposed tariffs could be substantial, particularly given Colombia's role as a major supplier of coffee, crude oil, and cut flours to the U.S. With Colombia accounting for approximately 20% of U.S. coffee imports, consumers could see rising prices for their morning brews. Similarly, the U.S. imported about $6 billion worth of petroleum from Colombia in 2022, making it a crucial component of the bilateral trade relationship, which totaled $53.5 billion annually. Increased tariffs could disrupt this economic flow, with costs likely passed on to consumers. This episode also serves as a broader warning to other countries regarding U.S. immigration policy and the administration's willingness to enforce compliance through economic measures. The Trump administration's hardline stance on immigration has been a hallmark of its policy agenda, and this confrontation with Colombia underscores the lengths to which it will go to assert its demands. Looking ahead, the future of U.S.-Colombian relations remains uncertain. While both governments have signaled a willingness to move past this impasse, underlying tensions may continue to strain the partnership, especially as Colombia explores closer ties with other nations, including China. As the geopolitical landscape evolves, stakeholders will be watching closely to see how this situation impacts not only bilateral trade but also the broader dynamics of immigration and diplomacy in the region. In a whirlwind of executive actions and policy reversals, President Donald Trump has commenced his second term with a flurry of initiatives aimed at reshaping the federal government and immigration policy. Just days into his presidency, Trump has sparked significant reactions from both supporters and critics as he seeks to fulfill the promises made during his campaign. Trump's agenda has been characterized by an aggressive approach reminiscent of his first term 8 years ago, but marked by a newfound confidence and control over the Republican Party. His administration is already moving to implement sweeping changes across various sectors, with a particular focus on immigration, federal agencies, and social policies. A notable aspect of this initial phase has been his engagement with House Republicans at a retreat in Florida, emphasizing unity within the party as they prepare to tackle key legislative priorities. One of the administration's most contentious moves has been the crackdown on immigration policies established under the Biden administration. A newly issued memo empowers Immigration and Customs Enforcement (ICE) officials to expedite the deportation of migrants who entered the country through programs that temporarily allowed over 1 million individuals to reside in the U.S. These programs, which were viewed as essential pathways for those fleeing dire situations in countries like Venezuela and Haiti, are now under threat. Critics, including former Biden officials and immigrant advocacy groups, have condemned this action as an unprecedented betrayal of those who followed legal procedures to seek refuge. The administration's aggressive stance on immigration is reflective of Trump's long-standing commitment to strict enforcement and border security. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt announced that deportation flights have begun, underscoring the administration's intention to send a clear message regarding illegal immigration. However, this approach raises concerns about the treatment of vulnerable populations who believe they were in the U.S. legally. In addition to immigration, Trump's first week has been marked by significant changes within federal agencies. The president appears determined to dismantle what he refers to as the deep state, targeting diversity and inclusion offices and placing federal workers on leave, including those involved in equity efforts. This has raised alarms among public health experts who fear that limiting communication from health agencies could undermine trust and coordination essential for effective public health responses. The rapid pace of Trump's initiatives has drawn mixed reactions, with supporters praising his decisiveness while critics warn of potential overreach. GOP consultant Mike Duhigg commented on the administration's swift action, stating, "The Trump team is moving much more swiftly and aggressively than it did 8 years ago. This acceleration suggests a deliberate strategy to capitalize on the unified Republican control in Congress and the solid conservative majority in the Supreme Court." Trump's decision-making has also included controversial pardons for individuals involved in the January 6 Capitol insurrection, further polarizing opinions within the party and the public. The pardons, which include those who assaulted law enforcement officers, have raised eyebrows not only among Democrats but also within GOP leadership circles. As the administration navigates these tumultuous waters, the long-term implications of Trump's policies are yet to be fully realized. While the initial actions signal a return to a hardline approach, the potential for legal challenges and public backlash looms large. Trump's determination to test the limits of presidential power, as demonstrated by his attempts to revoke birthright citizenship, highlights the contentious nature of his presidency. Looking ahead, the Trump administration is poised to roll out further initiatives, particularly in immigration and tax policy, as it seeks to solidify its agenda and respond to the challenges posed by a highly polarized political landscape. With the groundwork laid in this initial week, the coming months promise to be a critical period for the Trump presidency as he attempts to reshape the federal government and fulfill his campaign pledges amidst increasing scrutiny and opposition. In a world increasingly defined by economic nationalism and political unpredictability, the recent World Economic Forum in Davos served as a stage for the resurgent presence of Donald Trump, whose second presidency is shaping the contours of global geopolitics in profound and multifaceted ways. As the annual gathering brought together over 3,000 participants from 130 countries, it was evident that Trump is not merely a player in this new order but a catalyst and symptom of the shifting dynamics at play. Frederick Kemp, president and CEO of the Atlantic Council, observed that Trump's rhetoric and actions reflect a departure from the post-Cold War era of globalization and free trade, ushering in an age characterized by mercantilism and government intervention. The first week of Trump's renewed presidency echoed with his self-proclaimed most consequential election victory in 129 years, positioning the United States at the forefront of what he termed a golden age of America. During his virtual address, Trump captivated an audience that ranged from skeptical European leaders to eager business executives. His remarks were laced with bravado as he urged Saudi Arabia to increase its investment in the U.S. from $600 billion to $1 trillion. All while calling on Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to lower oil prices to expedite an end to the war in Ukraine. "I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them," Trump asserted, emphasizing his transactional approach to international relations. The implications of Trump's presidency extend beyond mere economics. They resonate deeply within the geopolitical landscape. Nir Bardi, CEO of Bridgewater Associates, pointed out that Trump is navigating through a complex web of global dynamics, including the rise of China, the fragility of supply chains exposed by the pandemic, and the ongoing conflicts in Europe and the Middle East. "What people in Davos understand is that today what's in this one person's mind will be massively important," Bardi noted. While many business leaders in attendance celebrated Trump's promises of deregulation and job creation, significant trepidation loomed over discussions regarding his protectionist policies. Concerns revolved around his inclination towards punitive tariffs and the potential for renewed economic volatility. This dichotomy reflects a broader anxiety among global leaders who fear that Trump's approach may deepen divisions in an already fragmented world. The mood among attendees oscillated between optimism and apprehension. Some executives viewed Trump's economic nationalism as a boon, particularly in sectors like energy, where Repsol CEO Josu John Imaz suggested that Trump's policies might catalyze shifts toward more sustainable energy production. However, others, like former Swedish Prime Minister Carl Bildt, expressed grave concerns about the destabilizing nature of Trump's rhetoric and its potential to undermine the rules-based international order. As the week unfolded, the European response to Trump's administration emerged as a critical theme. European leaders articulated a determination to bolster their economic autonomy while navigating the complexities of American protectionism. Nadia Calvino, president of the European Investment Bank, underscored the necessity of multilateral cooperation, cautioning against a zero-sum mindset in international relations. This sentiment resonated with Ursula von der Leyen, president of the European Commission, who emphasized the importance of creating a unified regulatory framework to enhance the competitiveness of European businesses. In contrast, China is recalibrating its strategy in light of Trump's resurgence, as evidenced by a new $1 billion initiative aimed at mitigating local debt issues. The Chinese Communist Party is striving to transition its economy towards higher value sectors while managing domestic challenges, including a slowing growth rate. This adjustment underscores the global ramifications of Trump's policies, which threaten to exacerbate the challenges faced by emerging economies already grappling with the fallout of economic isolationism. As participants in Davos ponder the implications of Trump's return to power, they are acutely aware of the potential risks and opportunities that lie ahead. With Trump's assertions of a new economic order, global leaders are tasked with navigating a landscape that is increasingly characterized by uncertainty and volatility. The responses from influential players like the European Union and China will be pivotal in shaping the trajectory of international relations and economic collaboration in the coming years. In conclusion, the World Economic Forum has highlighted not only Trump's influence but also the broader geopolitical shifts that accompany his presidency. As the world watches closely, the interplay between national interests and global cooperation will determine the future of economic policy and international diplomacy, with the stakes higher than ever. The coming months will be crucial in defining the contours of this new era, where the echoes of Davos will resonate far beyond the Swiss Alps. In a significant move signaling a return to some of the Trump administration's earlier policies, President Donald Trump is set to sign 2 executive orders today that will ban transgender individuals from serving in the military and dismantle diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) programs within the armed forces. This announcement, which has garnered widespread attention, marks a stark departure from the Biden administration's approach to LGBTQ+ rights and military inclusivity. The executive orders are expected to build upon Trump's prior actions, including a directive issued on his first day in office that revoked the Biden administration's policy allowing transgender individuals to serve openly. The new orders will lay out specific military standards concerning gender identity and pronouns while directly prohibiting thousands of transgender service members from serving, citing concerns about mental and physical readiness. A White House document previewing the orders states unit cohesion requires high levels of integrity and stability among service members, suggesting that the presence of transgender individuals undermines military effectiveness. Critics argue that the rationale presented for these bans is rooted in outdated perceptions of military readiness rather than empirical data. While the document claims that transitioning can lead to a minimum of 12 months of recovery that affects physical capabilities, advocates for transgender rights in the military emphasize that many service members successfully balance their transition with military duties. According to estimates from 2014, there could be around 15,500 transgender service members actively serving, a number that reflects a small yet significant community within the armed forces. In addition to the prohibition of transgender service members, the second executive order will target DEI initiatives, which Trump and his supporters have labeled as a woke assault on military traditions. The order will prohibit any race or sex-based preferences in military recruitment and training, aligning with Trump's broader agenda to eliminate what he describes as divisive ideologies from government operations. This order will prompt reviews of existing DEI programs and could potentially lead to the dismissal of military leaders who have embraced these practices. The implications of these executive orders are vast, impacting not only the lives of those currently serving but also the future of military recruitment and morale. Military experts worry that reinstating such bans could deter potential recruits who prioritize inclusivity and equality in their workplace. Moreover, the orders could exacerbate existing divides within the armed forces, as service members may feel pressured to conform to a narrow definition of military readiness and identity. Trump's actions come at a time when he has also been vocal about increasing military recruitment and addressing what he perceives as a decline in standards within the armed forces. His administration has argued that the current DEI practices and the inclusion of transgender individuals contribute to low morale and recruitment numbers. However, many experts counter that inclusivity can enhance unit cohesion and operational effectiveness, suggesting that a more diverse military is better equipped to serve a varied population. As Trump prepares to take these bold steps, he faces the challenge of balancing his administration's agenda with the realities of military operations and the diverse makeup of the armed forces. The political landscape surrounding LGBTQ+ rights is also rapidly evolving, with many Americans increasingly supporting inclusivity in all areas of society, including the military. Looking ahead, the implementation of these executive orders could ignite a contentious debate in Congress and among advocacy groups, leading to potential legal challenges and further scrutiny of military policies. The long-term impacts of such policies on military effectiveness and recruitment may take time to fully manifest, but the immediate reaction from service members and the public will likely shape the discourse surrounding military readiness and equality for years to come. As tensions in the Middle East continue to escalate, the prospect of renewed diplomatic efforts between the United States and Iran has become a focal point for regional security dynamics. Dr. Shay Harsby, a senior researcher at the Institute for Policy and Strategy at Reichman University, has emphasized the necessity for Israel to prepare for swift negotiations that could reshape the geopolitical landscape. His insights, shared in an interview with Ma'ariv, suggest that U.S. President Donald Trump's evolving approach toward Iran favors dialogue over military confrontation, particularly concerning its nuclear ambitions. Harsby noted that Trump's recent comments indicate a serious commitment to resolving issues through diplomacy. His statement that it would be nice to resolve issues with Iran wasn't offhand, Harsby remarked. He consistently emphasizes that one of his main goals is to end wars, not to start them. This is especially significant when it comes to Iran's nuclear ambitions. This sentiment aligns with Trump's historical strategy of leveraging economic pressure rather than military strikes to achieve a more favorable agreement with Tehran, especially following the U.S. withdrawal from the 2015 nuclear deal. The Iranian leadership appears to be acutely aware of this diplomatic pivot. Harsby suggested that Iran, under the guidance of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, is signaling a willingness to engage in discussions regarding a new nuclear agreement. This shift comes amid Iran's internal challenges, including the deterioration of its proxy network, economic hardships, and the geopolitical ramifications of recent military actions by Israel, notably its strike on Iranian air defenses in late 2024. The expert further elaborated on Trump's dual strategy of maximum pressure, which combines intensified economic sanctions, particularly on Iran's energy sector and oil exports, with the continued threat of military action if negotiations falter. The key issue is whether the deal will robustly prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons and roll back its program for years, or if it will be a superficial agreement that delays the challenge temporarily, Harsby cautioned. Reflecting on the past, he criticized the 2015 Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action (JCPOA), which he believes lacked sufficient oversight and was set to expire in 2030, ultimately leaving Iran's nuclear ambitions unchecked. This context raises concerns that Trump may prioritize achieving any agreement potentially compromising long-term security for the sake of a diplomatic win. For Israel, Harzvi urged Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to enhance strategic and military coordination with the U.S. administration. He stressed the importance of articulating Israel's non-negotiable demands in any forthcoming discussions, particularly concerning Iran's ability to develop advanced missile technology and enrich uranium. Netanyahu should present these requirements in his expected February meeting with Trump, Harzvi advised. In outlining recommendations for a robust future agreement, Harzvi emphasized the need for strict measures including the removal of all uranium enriched above 5%, dismantling advanced centrifuges, and implementing rigorous monitoring by the International Atomic Energy Agency. He underscored that sanctions relief must be contingent upon Iran's full compliance, and Israel should simultaneously prepare for the possibility of failed negotiations by developing contingency plans to mitigate the nuclear threat. As the geopolitical landscape remains fluid, the coming months will be critical in determining the trajectory of U.S.-Iran relations and the implications for regional security. With Trump's administration signaling a readiness to engage diplomatically, Israel's proactive measures could be pivotal in navigating the challenges posed by a nuclear-capable Iran. The outcomes of these diplomatic efforts will undoubtedly resonate beyond the immediate region, influencing global security dynamics in the years to come.